My name's Adrian Smith. This is where I do all my creators, my studio, my house. I thought it might be fun to revisit a few songs we did back in the early days with Maiden. There was a song called Gangland.
When Adrian Smith walked away from Iron Maiden in 1990, fans were stunned. He wasn't just another guitarist, he was one of the main creative forces behind the band's biggest hits like 2 Minutes to Midnight and Wasted Years. For years, the band had been on top of the heavy metal world, selling out arenas across the globe. But behind the roaring crowds and platinum records, Adrian was quietly fighting doubts. He felt the music was changing, and not in a way he liked. Iron Maiden was heading into a darker, heavier direction, while Adrian's instincts were pulling him elsewhere. Something wasn't clicking anymore, and when he finally made his decision, it shook the entire band. But why did a guitarist at the peak of his fame really walk away from one of the biggest metal bands in history? The answer wasn't simple. It was a mix of creative disagreements, personal struggles, and the weight of life inside one of rock's hardest-working bands. Adrian Smith was known as a melodic writer inside Iron Maiden. He loved big choruses, catchy hooks, and songs that could reach beyond just metal audiences. But by the late 1980s, Maiden's music was shifting. Bruce Dickinson and Steve Harris wanted heavier, darker, more complex tracks. The 1990 album, No Prayer for the Dying, showed this change clearly. Adrian didn't like the stripped-down, raw direction. To him, it felt like the band was throwing away the progress they had made with albums like Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, which he believed was their masterpiece. He even admitted later that he wasn't excited about the new material and struggled to contribute. When you're in a band like Maiden, passion is everything. If your heart isn't in it, it shows. Adrian's growing distance from the band's sound created tension, and it was the first crack that would eventually split him from Iron Maiden. Life in Iron Maiden was relentless. Touring meant endless flights, hotel rooms, and performing night after night in front of tens of thousands of fans. While many lived for the thrill, Adrian began to feel trapped. The schedule left little room for breathing, let alone personal growth. After nearly a decade of non-stop touring and recording, burnout was inevitable. Adrian was naturally quieter than some of his bandmates. He wasn't into wild parties or being in the spotlight 24/7. He wanted balance, but Maiden was a machine that never slowed down. This lifestyle took its toll. He began to ask himself if the fame was worth it. Could he keep doing this forever? Or was he slowly losing the joy of playing guitar? These thoughts kept growing louder in his mind. By the end of the 1980s, burnout had become another reason Adrian began thinking about leaving the band. Adrian wasn't just a guitarist, he was a songwriter with his own vision. He had been working on music outside of Maiden for years. His project, ASAP, Adrian Smith and Project, showed his love for hard rock, with a more melodic, accessible sound. While the album didn't find massive success, it revealed Adrian's hunger to experiment. Inside Maiden, he felt boxed in. The band had a strict formula driven by Steve Harris, and there wasn't much room to explore different styles. Adrian wanted to push boundaries, maybe even step into mainstream rock. That wasn't going to happen in Iron Maiden. So the choice became clearer: stay in the biggest metal band on the planet, but feel trapped creatively, or leave and risk everything for freedom. For Adrian, freedom was starting to sound better than fame. The breaking point came during the sessions for No Prayer for the Dying. Adrian wasn't inspired by the material and admitted he didn't see himself in the music. Steve Harris was determined to push forward with the heavier style, but Adrian simply couldn't fake enthusiasm. Tension grew between him and the rest of the band. In interviews, he later confessed he didn't want to hold Maiden back. If his heart wasn't in it, he would only drag the group down, so he made the hard choice to walk away. It wasn't a dramatic fight or a sudden explosion, it was a slow realization that he didn't belong anymore. But leaving Iron Maiden wasn't just leaving a band. It meant leaving behind fame, security, and millions of loyal fans. Still, Adrian believed it was the only way to stay true to himself. When Adrian left, many wondered if his career would survive. He dabbled in different projects, testing out styles and sounds. He kept writing, kept searching. While none of these ventures matched the scale of Maiden, Adrian wasn't chasing stadiums anymore. He was chasing fulfillment. This period gave him space to breathe and reconnect with music on his own terms. He could finally experiment without pressure. At the same time, he stayed close with Bruce Dickinson, who would also leave Maiden a few years later. Their bond would prove important in the future. Adrian's post-Maiden years weren't easy, but they shaped him into a musician who valued freedom over fame. Looking back, he said leaving was painful but necessary. Iron Maiden fans are fiercely loyal. When Adrian left, many felt betrayed and heartbroken. Some worried the band would never sound the same. After all, his guitar work and songwriting were central to Maiden's identity. Songs like Wasted Years and Stranger in a Strange Land carried his melodic touch. Without him, fans noticed the difference. The band moved forward, bringing Janik Gers as a replacement, but Adrian's absence was felt. Over time, though, many fans respected his honesty. He didn't stay just for fame or money. He chose integrity, even if it hurt his career. That honesty only deepened the respect fans had for him. In 1999, something fans never expected happened. Adrian Smith returned to Iron Maiden alongside Bruce Dickinson. The reunion was electric. The band welcomed him back, and together they reignited their glory days with albums like Brave New World. Adrian admitted he came back because Maiden had evolved, and this time the musical direction inspired him again. Looking back, he said leaving was necessary. It gave him perspective. If he hadn't stepped away, he might have grown bitter and resentful. Instead, he returned refreshed and ready to play. It proved that sometimes stepping away is the only way to truly find your passion again. Adrian later revealed that leaving Maiden taught him priceless lessons. First, it showed him the importance of following your heart. If he had stayed, unhappy and uninspired, it would have hurt both him and the band. Second, it reminded him that success isn't just about fame or money. It's about enjoying what you do. Third, it gave him the courage to take risks. Even after stepping away from one of the biggest bands in history, he survived, grew, and came back stronger. Those lessons shaped not only his music, but also his life. So why did Adrian Smith really leave Iron Maiden? It wasn't one single reason. It was a mix of burnout, creative differences, and the desire to explore his own path. He didn't want to hold the band back, and he didn't want to betray himself by playing music he no longer believed in. In the end, leaving was an act of honesty, both to himself and to Iron Maiden. And because of that choice, when he returned years later, he came back with a renewed passion that has fueled Maiden ever since. His story proves that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is step away, even from the dream you once fought for.